Picture the most powerful man alive kneeling in the dirt. Not metaphorically. Not in defeat on a distant battlefield where no one important is watching. Literally kneeling. On the ground. In chains. Covered in blood and dust, wearing the shredded remains of the finest armor money in the known world could buy. Now picture the man standing over him placing his boot on the back of that kneeling man's neck. Slowly. Deliberately. And forcing him, the Emperor of the Byzantine Empire, ruler of the most enduring civilization on earth, the sacred representative of God on earth according to every tradition his people believed, forcing him to kiss the dirt. That happened. August 26, 1071. It is documented. It is real. And then the man with his boot on the emperor's neck did something no one expected. He let him go. Not ransomed. Not traded. Not paraded through the capital in chains as a trophy. He sat the emperor down beside him. He fed him. He spoke with him. He offered him the same peace terms he had proposed before the battle, the terms the emperor had rejected with contempt, and then he sent him home with gifts, a military escort of honor, and one of his own daughters promised in marriage. The most dangerous sultan in the medieval Islamic world had just crushed the most powerful emperor on earth. And then, when he could have done anything, he chose mercy. That mercy would haunt them both. His name was Alp Arslan. In Turkish, it means heroic lion. He earned that name, not inherited it, by fighting his own cousins for the throne of an empire that stretched from the Hindu Kush mountains to the borders of Anatolia. He was 43 years old when he died. He ruled for less than a decade. And in that time, he cracked the spine of Byzantine civilization so completely that the aftershock was still being felt 400 years later when Constantinople finally fell. But here is the thing about Alp Arslan that history doesn't tell you. It wasn't the battle that defined him. It wasn't the mercy either. It was what happened when the mercy ran out. To understand what happened in that tent in 1071, you need to understand who this man actually was before he became a legend. He was born Muhammad bin Dawud Chagri in 1029. The Seljuk dynasty was less than a generation old. His uncle Tughril had built it into a real power, and when Tughril died in 1063 without a son, everything was suddenly at stake. There was no clean succession. There was blood. Alp Arslan had cousins, uncles, rivals, men with equal claim and equal ambition. He fought them. He won. And when the dust settled and the last rival was crushed, he sat down on the Seljuk throne as the sole sultan of an empire commanding 200,000 warriors stretching across the fairest part of Asia. He did not rest. He marched into Armenia. Into Georgia. South. West. He was always moving, always building, the kind of ruler who understands that an empire that stops expanding starts decaying. And then came the Byzantine emperor. Romanos IV Diogenes had risen to power on a single promise: he would stop the Turkish raids destroying Byzantine's heartland in Anatolia. The raids had been bleeding the empire for decades. Turkish nomad groups had sacked cities, burned farmland, struck and disappeared before Byzantine infantry could ever catch them. Romanos had come to end it, once and forever, with a massive military campaign that would push the Turks back beyond the Euphrates and never let them return. He gathered an army. Modern historians estimate 60 to 70,000 men, double the Seljuk force, and still the most powerful Byzantine army assembled in a generation. He brought siege equipment. He brought German mercenaries. He brought a baggage train so enormous, so laden with luxury provisions, that his own troops whispered about it. He brought the kind of confidence that comes from never having faced the man waiting on the other side. He didn't even send scouts ahead. He didn't think he needed to. Alp Arslan had been campaigning in the south when word reached him that Romanos was marching east. He had actually been negotiating a potential truce with Byzantium. That ended immediately. Because Romanos had given shelter to Alp Arslan's enemies. This was now personal. The Sultan turned his army north. He watched every single move the Byzantine force made, He knew where they were, how they were organized, how fast they were moving. Romanos knew nothing about him. Before the battle, Alp Arslan made one final offer of peace. The same terms. One last time. Romanos rejected them. Contemptuously. So Alp Arslan dressed in white, the color Muslims wear for burial, and told his army he was prepared to die. He gave a speech. He told his men, "We are equals in this. Whatever comes, we face it together." And then he attacked. 30,000 Seljuk cavalry against 70,000 Byzantines. Mobile and fast against a slow-moving force already exhausted from weeks of marching. Alp Arslan used the terrain. He used feigned retreat, pulling enemy formations apart as they chased what they thought was a fleeing enemy, then turning, surrounding, destroying. What broke the Byzantines wasn't just the tactics. Half their force had deserted before the battle even began. Their Turkish mercenaries looked at the Seljuk army and switched sides. The Byzantine flank commander Andronikos Doukas pulled his men back at the critical moment, not from incompetence, but from political calculation. He wanted Romanos to lose. He would benefit from it. Romanos fought personally, bravely. He went where the danger was worst. He was wounded. He kept fighting. He was captured only when his horse was killed beneath him and he could no longer move. By sunset on August 26, 1071, the Emperor of Byzantium was in chains. When Romanos was first brought before Alp Arslan, the Sultan refused to believe it was him. This broken, bloodied man covered in dirt, this was the mighty Emperor of Rome. He made them confirm it 3 times. Then he placed his boot on Romanos' neck. Then he made him kiss the ground. Dominance established. Message delivered to every witness in that tent. And then, only then, Alp Arslan asked his question. Alp Arslan, what would you do, if I were brought before you as a prisoner? Romanos, perhaps I would kill you. Or exhibit you in the streets of Constantinople. Alp Arslan, my punishment is far heavier. I forgive you. And I set you free. Think about that for a moment. The emperor just told the Sultan, honestly, to his face, I would humiliate you or kill you. And the Sultan responded, then you understand exactly how different I am from you. Mercy, when you have all the power, is the most devastating thing you can do. It wasn't weakness. It was dominance of a different kind. Romanos stayed in a Seljuk camp for 1 week. He was seated at the Sultan's table. Treated with the respect due an emperor. Given gifts. An escort of honor. A ransom arrangement that was manageable. And one of Alp Arslan's daughters promised in marriage to seal a peace treaty. The Sultan sent the emperor home a free man. It should have been Alp Arslan's greatest act. The moment that made even his enemies respect him. Instead it became the cruelest irony in his story. Here is what happened to Romanos IV after Alp Arslan set him free. He came home to an empire that had already moved on without him. While the emperor had been a prisoner, the Doukas family, the same political faction whose general had sabotaged him on the battlefield, had declared him deposed and placed a new emperor on the throne. By the time Romanos reached Byzantine territory, he was no longer emperor. He was a problem. He tried to raise loyal troops. He fought 3 battles against the Doukas forces. He lost all 3. He surrendered. He was taken. He was blinded, not cleanly, not humanely, but savagely, by men who wanted him to suffer. The infection from his wounds spread. He was exiled to an island. His last journey through the Anatolian heartland he had sacrificed everything to defend was made on a donkey, his face rotting from the injuries of his blinding. He died weeks later. Alone. Deposed. Forgotten by the empire he gave his life for. Alp Arslan's mercy had sent him home to something worse than execution. The Sultan never knew. He was already looking east. Already planning the next campaign. In 1072, barely a year after Manzikert, he assembled 200,000 men and turned toward Turkestan. Toward a Karakhanid ruler named Shams al-Mulk who had married one of Alp Arslan's daughters, and then had her killed. This was no longer strategy. This was grief and fury in military form. He crossed the Oxus River. On the way, he encountered a string of fortresses that needed to fall before he could advance. One of them, a small fortress called Burzum, on the banks of the river, was commanded by a man named Yusuf al-Khwarizmi. Yusuf held out. Days passed. Eventually he surrendered. Alp Arslan had actually promised, before the surrender, that Yusuf could keep his land. Magnanimous. The same instinct that had led him to show mercy to Romanos. But when Yusuf was brought before the Sultan in chains, something shifted. Alp Arslan looked at this man who had dared to resist him, a fortress commander, a nobody, a minor obstacle on the road to a campaign of revenge, and he scolded him. Publicly. In front of the entire court. He didn't praise the man's bravery. He humiliated him. Yusuf didn't bow his head. He answered back. Insolently. With contempt. And something inside the Sultan broke. He ordered Yusuf's limbs tied to 4 posts, a slow, humiliating death. Yusuf said something. The sources don't agree on exactly what. But it enraged the Sultan further. And here, right here, is where the heroic lion made the last mistake of his life. Alp Arslan was famous for his archery. In the physical culture of the Seljuk court, the Sultan's skill with a bow was a point of deep personal pride. He was extraordinarily gifted. It was as much a part of his identity as his title. He ordered his guards to unbind Yusuf. He would execute this insolent man himself. With his own bow. A demonstration of the Sultan's skill and dominance for every man in that camp to witness. His guards protested. Unbind the prisoner. Let him stand free while the Sultan draws a bow. It was madness. It was unnecessary. It was the kind of pride that doesn't think past itself. The Sultan's command was absolute. Yusuf was unbound. Alp Arslan drew his bow. Every man present held their breath. The Sultan's foot slipped. In the fraction of a second it took Alp Arslan to lose his footing, Yusuf crossed the space between them and drove his dagger into the Sultan's body. The guards killed Yusuf immediately. But the damage was done. Alp Arslan lay dying for 4 days. He had 200,000 soldiers camped around him. He had an empire stretching across half the known world. He had just won the most decisive military victory of the century. And he was killed by a man whose name no one would have remembered if not for this moment. In those 4 days, he summoned his son Malik Shah and transferred the throne. He put his affairs in order with the precision of a man who had spent his life bringing order to chaos. And then he spoke his last recorded words. In my youth I was advised by a sage to humble myself before God, to distrust my own strength, and never to despise the most contemptible foe. I have neglected these lessons. And I am being punished for it now. He died on November 24, 1072. He was 43 years old. Buried in the city of Merv by the 17-year-old son he had just handed the world. Think about the symmetry of this story. He showed mercy to the Emperor of Byzantine, a man who admitted he would have killed or humiliated him, because he understood that true power doesn't need revenge. That was wisdom. 1 year later, he was killed because he couldn't extend that same discipline to a fortress commander whose insolence pricked his pride. He unbound a prisoner, picked up his bow, and died because his foot slipped at the wrong moment. That was pride, the exact opposite of wisdom. The same man. The same instincts. Capable of the greatest mercy. Destroyed by a single moment of vanity. And the ripples. The Battle of Manzikert didn't just end a Byzantine campaign. The Turkish settlers who poured into Anatolia in its aftermath, their descendants became the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire took Constantinople in 1453. The fall of Constantinople scattered Greek scholars into Western Europe and helped trigger the Italian Renaissance. One afternoon. One battle. One act of mercy. One act of pride. The heroic lion changed the shape of the world. And never knew how far the ripples went. Power doesn't create monsters. It reveals them. And sometimes, in the same person, in the same year, in the same body, it reveals both the saint and the fool. Alp Arslan knew it. That's what makes his last words so devastating. He wasn't surprised by his fate. He recognized it. A sage had warned him when he was young. He had remembered those words his entire life. He had even lived by them, right up until the moment he didn't. One slip. One moment. And the heroic lion was gone. The throne passed to his son. And the world kept moving. As it always does. If this story hit you the way it hit me, subscribe. Every week we go inside the throne rooms they don't teach in schools. The rulers who were brilliant and broken in the same breath. The stories power tried to bury. Hit subscribe. Ring the bell. And tell me in the comments, was Alp Arslan's mercy his greatest achievement, or his greatest mistake? I'll see you in the next one.